A grandmother heard a female voice telling her to turn off the stove immediately. She was in the middle of cooking Thanksgiving dinner for her entire family. 17 people were arriving in 2 hours. But the voice was urgent, insistent, impossible to ignore. She turned off the stove against all logic. 30 minutes later, what the fire chief discovered left everyone speechless. This is the story of the voice that saved 17 lives and the grandmother whose obedience prevented an unspeakable tragedy. But before we continue, leave a comment saying where you are watching from and what time it is there right now. I would love to see how far the miracles of the Virgin Mary are reaching. Martha Collins was 68 years old and had been cooking Thanksgiving dinner for her family for 43 years. 43 years of turkey and stuffing and mashed potatoes and pumpkin pie. 43 years of setting the table with her best china and decorating the house with fall colors and making sure everything was perfect. Because that was what Martha did. She made everything perfect for the people she loved. Martha lived in Asheville, North Carolina, in the same house she and her late husband George had bought 45 years ago. George had passed away 3 years earlier after a sudden heart attack. Martha still missed him every single day. The house felt too big without him, too quiet, but she stayed because it was full of memories. Because their children had grown up there. Because the grandchildren loved visiting Grandma's house. Because leaving would feel like losing George all over again. Martha had 3 children. Robert was 45, married to Linda, with 3 teenage children. Sarah was 42, married to David, with 2 elementary-aged kids. And Michael was 38, married to Jennifer, with twin toddlers. In total, Martha had 7 grandchildren, ranging from 2 years old to 17. They were her world. Her reason to keep going after George died. Every holiday, every birthday, every special occasion happened at Martha's house. It was tradition. It was home. Thanksgiving was Martha's favorite holiday, not because of the food, though she loved to cook, but because it was the one day every year when her entire family came together. No distractions, no rushing off to other obligations. Just family, together, grateful, connected. Martha started planning Thanksgiving in early November. She made lists. She bought groceries weeks in advance. She cleaned the house until it sparkled. She set the table the night before. Everything had to be just right. This Thanksgiving was particularly special. It was the first one since Martha's sister Helen had died in June. Helen had lived in Florida and rarely made it to family gatherings, but her death had reminded everyone how precious time together really was. Martha's children had all promised to arrive early this year, to spend the whole day, to really be present. Martha was thrilled. The house would be full. The table would be crowded. The noise would be wonderful. 17 people, her 3 children, their spouses, 7 grandchildren, and Martha herself. 17 souls under one roof giving thanks together. Martha woke up at 5 in the morning on Thanksgiving Day. She always did. The turkey needed to go in the oven early. She made coffee and started working. She prepared the turkey, seasoned it, stuffed it, put it in the roasting pan, slid it into the oven at exactly 6:30. 325 degrees, 6 hours. It would be perfect by 12:30, just in time. While the turkey cooked, Martha worked on everything else. She peeled potatoes, 20 pounds of them, enough to make mountains of mashed potatoes. She chopped vegetables for the green bean casserole. She made cranberry sauce from scratch. She prepared the stuffing. She rolled out pie dough for 3 pumpkin pies and 2 apple pies. By 10 in the morning, the kitchen looked like a tornado had hit. Dishes everywhere, flour on the counters. But Martha was in her element. This was what she loved, creating abundance, creating joy, creating memories. The family was scheduled to arrive at noon. Robert and his crew would come first. They only lived 20 minutes away. Sarah and David were driving from Charlotte. 2 hours. They would arrive around noon as well. Michael and Jennifer lived the farthest, almost 3 hours away. They were bringing the twins who were difficult travelers. Martha expected them around 12:30 or 1. By 1:30, everyone would be there. They would eat around 2. Perfect timing. At 11:15, Martha put the potatoes on the stove to boil. She turned the front burner to high. The pot was huge, heavy, filled with water and potatoes. She set a timer for 20 minutes. While the potatoes boiled, she would finish the pies. She slid the pies into the second oven. Everything was on schedule. Everything was going according to plan. At 11:30, Martha was washing dishes when she felt it. The temperature in the kitchen changed. Not from the oven or the stove. That heat was normal, expected. This was different. It came from nowhere and everywhere at once. A warmth that wrapped around her entire body. Gentle, comforting, strange. Martha stopped washing dishes and looked around. What was that? The heating system? But it was not cold outside. The heat was not on. And then she smelled it. Roses, fresh roses, strong and sweet. So strong it overpowered the smell of turkey and pies and everything else cooking. Martha frowned. She looked around the kitchen. No flowers, no air freshener, nothing. Where was that smell coming from? She walked to the window. Maybe a neighbor had roses blooming late, but it was November. Roses did not bloom in November in North Carolina. The smell grew stronger. Martha felt her heart begin to beat faster. This was not normal. Something was wrong. And then she heard it. A voice, a woman's voice, clear, calm, but urgent. "Turn off the stove, Martha." "Turn it off now." Martha froze. Her hands stopped moving. Her breath caught in her throat. She looked around the kitchen. Nobody. She was completely alone. Who said that? Where did that come from? She walked to the doorway and looked into the dining room. Empty. She checked the living room. Empty. She was alone in the house, completely alone. "Turn off the stove now, Martha," the voice came again. Stronger this time, more insistent. Martha felt chills run down her spine. This was not possible. She was not hearing things. She was 68 years old. Her hearing was fine. Her mind was sharp. She did not have dementia. She was not confused. But she had just heard a voice, a clear female voice, telling her to turn off the stove. Why? The potatoes were boiling. The timer had not gone off yet. Everything was fine. Everything was normal. But the voice came a third time. And this time, it was not calm. It was urgent, almost shouting. "Turn off the stove now before it is too late. Turn it off, Martha, now." Martha's body moved before her mind could process. She walked quickly to the stove. She reached for the knob. Her hand was shaking. This was crazy. The potatoes were not done. The family would be here in 30 minutes. She needed those potatoes. But her hand turned the knob anyway. The blue flame under the pot went out. The burner was off. Martha stood there staring at the stove. Her heart was pounding. What had she just done? Why had she turned off the stove? Because a voice told her to, a voice that did not exist? She felt panic rising. The potatoes were not cooked. Dinner would be ruined. Everyone would be disappointed. What was wrong with her? Maybe she was losing her mind. Maybe the stress of the holiday and missing George had finally broken something in her brain. Maybe she needed to see a doctor. But the smell of roses was still there, stronger than ever, and the warmth still surrounding her. Martha looked around the empty kitchen. "Who are you?" she whispered. "What do you want?" No answer, just the smell, the warmth, the absolute certainty that she had done the right thing even though it made no sense. Martha moved the pot of half-cooked potatoes to a back burner. She would have to start over. She would have to delay dinner. Everyone would be upset. But something had told her to turn off the stove, and she had obeyed. 20 minutes later, the doorbell rang. Martha wiped her hands on her apron and went to answer it. Robert and his family had arrived. Martha's face lit up despite her confusion. She hugged her son. She hugged Linda. She hugged her 3 teenage grandchildren who were already looking for the snacks she always had ready. Everyone piled into the house, coats off, shoes kicked aside, loud conversations. Questions about when dinner would be ready, the house came alive. Martha went back to the kitchen with Linda to finish preparing. Linda noticed immediately. "Mom, why are the potatoes only half cooked? Did something happen?" Martha hesitated. She did not know how to explain. I turned off the stove. I do not know why. I just felt like I needed to." Linda frowned. "Felt like you needed to. In the middle of cooking? Mom, are you feeling okay?" Martha forced a smile. "I am fine, honey. Just a little distracted. We will finish them now. Everything will be ready soon." But Martha was not fine. She could not stop thinking about the voice, the smell, the warmth, the urgency. Turn off the stove before it is too late? Before what was too late? What danger had she avoided? She looked at the stove. It looked normal. The burners were fine. The pots and pans were fine. Nothing was wrong. Maybe she really had imagined it. Maybe she was stressed and tired, and her mind had played a trick on her. Sarah and her family arrived at 12:15. More hugs, more noise, more grandchildren running through the house. Michael and Jennifer arrived at 12:45 with the twins who were cranky from the long drive. The house was full now. 17 people, talking, laughing, babies crying, teenagers on their phones, adults catching up. Chaos, beautiful chaos. Martha stood in the kitchen doorway watching her family and felt her eyes fill with tears. This was what mattered. All of them together, safe, healthy, home. At 1 o'clock, Robert came into the kitchen. "Mom, do you need help with anything?" Martha shook her head. "No, sweetheart. I have it under control." But Robert noticed something. "Mom, why do you smell so strongly of roses? Did you put on perfume?" Martha's heart skipped a beat. "You smell it too." Robert nodded. "Yeah, it is really strong. Did you buy one of those plug-in air fresheners?" Martha felt chills again. "No, I do not have any air fresheners." "You really smell roses?" Robert sniffed. "Yeah, it is all over the house, especially in here. It smells like you dumped a whole bottle of rose perfume." Martha could not speak. Robert smelled it too. She was not imagining it. Linda came into the kitchen. "Mom, did you light a rose-scented candle? I can smell it all the way in the living room." Martha shook her head slowly. "No candles, no perfume, no flowers. I smell it too, but I do not know where it is coming from." Linda and Robert exchanged glances. "That is weird, but it smells nice. Better than those chemical air fresheners." They went back to the living room. Martha stood alone in the kitchen. Other people smelled the roses. It was real, not her imagination. But what did it mean? At 1:30, just as Martha was pulling the turkey out of the oven, there was a loud knock at the door. Not the doorbell, a pounding knock. Urgent. Robert answered it. A man in a utility uniform stood there. "Sir, I am from the gas company. We are doing emergency checks in this neighborhood. We have detected a gas leak somewhere on this street, and we need to check every house immediately. This is very serious. If there is a leak, one spark could cause an explosion." Martha heard this from the kitchen. She felt her legs go weak. Gas leak. Robert let the technician in. The man had a device in his hand. A gas detector. He walked through the house slowly, checking, listening. The device beeped occasionally, but nothing major. Then he came to the kitchen. He held the detector near the stove. The beeping intensified. He moved closer. The beeping became rapid, continuous. His face changed. "Sir, ma'am, everyone needs to leave this house right now. Do not turn on any lights. Do not use any electrical switches. Just get everyone outside immediately." Robert's voice was sharp with fear. "What is it? What is wrong?" The technician's face was grim. "You have a major gas leak. Right here, at this stove. It is serious. Very serious. The gas has been leaking into your house. I am amazed there has not been an explosion already. One spark, one flame, one anything, and this whole house would have blown. Please get everyone outside now while I shut off the main gas line." Robert yelled to the family. "Everyone outside. Now, no questions. Just go." Martha stood frozen in the kitchen. Gas leak. Major gas leak. At the stove. Where she had been cooking all morning. where she had been using open flame, where just 30 minutes ago there had been a pot boiling over high heat. The family evacuated quickly, confused, scared. The twins were crying. The teenagers were asking questions. Sarah grabbed her mother's arm. "Mom, come on, we have to go." Martha walked outside in a daze. She stood on the front lawn with her entire family, 17 people, all of them looking worried, looking confused. Robert had his phone out ready to call 911. The technician came outside 5 minutes later. He had shut off the gas. His face was pale. "Okay, the immediate danger is over. But I need to explain what I found. This is one of the worst leaks I have ever seen." He took a breath. "The gas line connector behind your stove was corroded, completely deteriorated. Gas has been leaking into your house at a high rate for probably several hours. The air in your kitchen had reached dangerous levels. If any source of ignition had been present, if the stove had been on, if someone had turned on a light switch, if there had been any spark at all, the house would have exploded. Everyone inside would have been killed instantly." Martha felt the world tilt. She reached for Robert to steady herself. Her voice came out as a whisper. "The stove was on. I had potatoes boiling. High heat. Open flame." The technician stared at her. "When? When was the stove on?" "Until about 30 minutes ago. I turned it off at 11:30. The technician looked confused. "You turned off the stove in the middle of cooking? Why?" Martha could not answer. How could she explain? "Because a voice told me to. Because I smelled roses." "Because something made me do it?" the technician continued. "Ma'am, if you had kept that stove on, if the flame had been burning when the gas reached critical levels, the explosion would have been catastrophic. This house would be rubble. Everyone inside would be dead. By turning off the stove when you did, you saved your family, all of them. You are a hero." Martha started to cry. Not a hero. She was not a hero. She had just listened. She had obeyed a voice she could not explain. She had trusted something impossible. Robert put his arms around his mother. "Mom, how did you know? How did you know to turn off the stove?" Martha looked at her son, at his wife, at Sarah and David and Michael and Jennifer, at all 7 grandchildren, at the 17 people she loved more than anything in the world. All of them alive, all of them safe, because she had heard a voice, because she had obeyed. "I heard a voice," Martha said quietly, "a woman's voice. She told me to turn off the stove. She told me it was urgent. I did not understand why, but I listened." The family stared at her. Sarah spoke gently. "Mom, what do you mean you heard a voice?" Martha wiped her tears. "I know how it sounds, but I heard it 3 times, clear as day, telling me to turn off the stove before it was too late. And I smelled roses so strongly, and there was a warmth that surrounded me. Other people smelled it too." Robert and Linda both nodded. "We smelled roses, Mom, really strongly. But we thought it was perfume or something." Michael, Martha's youngest son, was quiet. He had always been the most religious of her children. He went to Mass every Sunday. He prayed daily. Now he spoke. "Mom, do you know what I think? I think it was the Virgin Mary. I think she warned you. She saved us." Martha looked at her son. The Virgin Mary. She had not thought of that. But yes, that made sense. The voice had been feminine, gentle, but urgent, motherly, protective. The roses, the warmth, the absolute certainty. It had been her, the Mother of God, watching over them, saving them when they did not even know they needed saving. The fire chief arrived 20 minutes later, along with more technicians. They examined the gas line. They took measurements. They inspected the entire system. The fire chief spoke with Martha privately. "Mrs. Collins, I have been doing this job for 28 years. I have seen gas leaks before. But this one should have killed everyone in this house. The levels were beyond critical. The fact that you are all standing here alive is nothing short of a miracle. I do not use that word lightly. But I cannot think of any other explanation. Someone was watching over you today?" Martha nodded. "Someone was. The Virgin Mary was watching over us. The fire chief looked at her carefully. "I believe you, ma'am. I have seen too many tragedies in this job, too many families destroyed by accidents that happened in seconds. But today, something intervened. Someone intervened. Your family is alive because you listened to a voice you could not explain. That is faith. That is grace. That is a miracle. If this story is touching your heart, do something for me right now. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you do not miss the miracles that happen every day. And leave a comment telling me what you are feeling at this moment. I want to know that these stories are reaching people who need hope. Do it now before we continue. The family could not stay in the house that night. The gas needed to be repaired. The house needed to be ventilated. They went to a hotel. 3 rooms, 17 people crowded together. Nobody complained. They were alive. That was all that mattered. That night, Martha lay in bed unable to sleep. She kept replaying it in her mind. The voice, the urgency, the obedience, the realization of what would have happened if she had not listened. She got up quietly and went to the bathroom. She looked at herself in the mirror. 68 years old, gray hair, wrinkled face, ordinary, nothing special. But the Virgin Mary had spoken to her, had chosen her, had trusted her to listen. Why? Martha had always been Catholic, always believed, but casually. She went to Mass most Sundays. She prayed sometimes, but it was routine, habit, not passionate, not deep. After George died, she had been angry at God. Why take her husband? Why leave her alone? She had pulled away from the church, stopped praying as much, went through the motions but without real faith. But today, the Virgin Mary had spoken to her anyway, despite her doubts, despite her anger, despite her weak faith. She had been chosen, she had been saved, her family had been saved. Martha knelt on the hotel bathroom floor. She clasped her hands together, and for the first time in 3 years, she really prayed. Thank you. Thank you, Blessed Mother. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for speaking when I did not deserve to hear. Thank you for saving my babies. Thank you for this miracle. I am sorry I pulled away. I am sorry I doubted. I am sorry I was angry. Please help me be worthy of this gift. Help me live every day knowing that you are real, that you care, that you are watching. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. The next morning, the whole family gathered in one hotel room. They needed to talk about what had happened. They needed to process. Michael spoke first. "Mom, you saved our lives yesterday. You heard something impossible, and you trusted it. That took courage." Martha shook her head. "I did not feel courageous. I felt confused, scared. I almost did not listen." Michael continued, "But you did listen. That is what matters. You trusted when it made no sense to trust. And because of that, we are all here, all 17 of us." Sarah was crying. "Mom, I have been thinking all night. What if you had not turned off the stove? What if you had ignored the voice? We would all be dead. David, me, our kids, everyone. Gone in an instant. But we are not. We are here, alive, because you listened to the Virgin Mary." Martha reached for her daughter's hand. "I did not know it was her at the time. I just knew I had to obey. But yes, I believe it was her. I know it was her. She saved us." Robert looked at his children, his 3 teenagers who were usually glued to their phones. They were listening now, really listening. "Do you understand what happened yesterday?" he asked them. "Do you understand that we almost died? That we are alive because of a miracle?" His oldest daughter, 17-year-old Emma, nodded. "Grandma, did you really hear a voice?" Martha looked at her granddaughter. "Yes, sweetheart, I really did. Clear as I am hearing you now." Emma was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I want to start going to church, like really going. Not just sitting in the pew scrolling on my phone. I want to pay attention. I want to pray. Because if the Virgin Mary is real enough to save us, then I want to know her." The other grandchildren nodded, even the teenagers, even the ones who had rolled their eyes at church. They had all come within minutes of dying, and they all knew why they were alive. Not luck, not chance, intervention. Divine intervention. The family decided to do something to honor what had happened. They would go to Mass together that Sunday, all 17 of them, and they would give thanks publicly. They would tell the story. They would let people know that miracles still happen, that the Virgin Mary still watches, still protects, still saves. That Sunday, Martha's parish was packed. Word had spread about what happened. The local news had covered the story. Gas leak nearly kills family of 17 on Thanksgiving. Grandmother's quick thinking saves lives. But Martha knew it was not quick thinking. It was not intuition. It was not luck. It was grace. It was a miracle. During Mass, Father Paul asked Martha to share what happened. She stood at the front of the church, her entire family in the first few pews. She told the story, the voice, the roses, the warmth, the obedience, the gas leak, the explosion that never happened because she had listened. When she finished, the church was silent. Then someone started clapping. Then everyone, a standing ovation, for Martha, for faith, for miracles. After Mass, people approached Martha. They wanted to hear more. They wanted to touch her, as if some of the miracle might rub off. An elderly woman grabbed Martha's hands. "You were visited by Our Lady. You were blessed. You must pray for us now. You must intercede." Martha felt overwhelmed. "I am not special. I'm just a grandmother who listened." But the woman shook her head. "You listened? That is what makes you special." Most people would have ignored the voice, would have dismissed it as imagination. But you trusted. You obeyed. That is faith. That is why she chose you. Martha became something of a local celebrity. The story spread beyond Asheville. News outlets picked it up. Religious programs featured it. Martha was interviewed multiple times. She always told the same story, always emphasized the same point. Listen. When something tells you to act, listen. Trust your instincts. Trust the voice. Trust God. Because sometimes that voice is the only thing standing between you and tragedy. Martha's family changed after that Thanksgiving. They had always been close, but now there was something deeper, a gratitude, an awareness, a recognition that they had been given a gift, an extra chance. They did not take it for granted. Robert started going to Mass every Sunday. He had not been regular since college. Now he never missed. Linda started praying the rosary daily. Sarah and David enrolled their children in religious education classes. Michael and Jennifer had been faithful before, but now their faith deepened. They prayed together as a family every night, and the grandchildren, all 7 of them, understood that they had been part of something extraordinary, that God had reached down and touched their family, that the Virgin Mary had saved them. It changed how they saw the world, how they saw faith, how they saw life. Martha herself was transformed. The anger she had carried since George died melted away. She understood now that death was not punishment. It was transition. George was not gone. He was waiting, and one day she would see him again. But until then, she had work to do. She had a family to love, a story to tell, a testimony to share. Martha started speaking at churches, at women's groups, at conferences, anywhere people wanted to hear about the miracle. She always brought the same message. Faith is not about understanding. It is about trusting. You will not always know why God asks you to do something. But when He does, obey. Because your obedience might save lives. It might change everything. 1 year later, Thanksgiving came again. The family gathered at Martha's house. The gas line had been completely replaced. The stove was new. Everything was safe. But this Thanksgiving was different. Before they ate, Martha asked everyone to stand in a circle, to hold hands, to pray together. They thanked God for the food, for the house, for being together. But mostly they thanked Him for the miracle, for the voice, for Martha's obedience, for 17 lives that were almost lost but were saved, for 1 more year together. for grace they did not deserve but received anyway. Martha's oldest grandchild, Emma, now 18, had written something she wanted to share. She read it out loud, her voice shaking with emotion. 1 year ago, we almost died. All of us. We did not know it at the time. We were just excited for Thanksgiving dinner, excited to be together. We had no idea that death was waiting, that disaster was seconds away. But someone knew, the Virgin Mary knew, and she spoke to the one person who would listen. To my grandma, a woman who had every reason to ignore a strange voice, to dismiss it as imagination, to keep cooking because dinner could not be late. But she did not. She listened, she trusted, she obeyed. And because of that, I am standing here today. My parents are here, my siblings, my cousins, my aunt and uncles, all of us. Alive because one woman had faith, because one woman listened. Grandma, you are my hero. You saved us. And I will spend the rest of my life being grateful for your courage. Martha was crying. Everyone was crying. Emma continued, I learned something that day. Faith is not just about going to church or saying prayers. It is about listening, really listening, to that small voice that tells you what to do, to that instinct that makes no logical sense but feels true anyway, to God speaking in the silence, and then having the courage to act on it, even when it seems crazy. That is what faith is, and that is what my grandma showed us. That is the miracle. Not just that we survived, but that we learned to listen. Today Martha is 70 years old. Her hair is whiter, her face has more wrinkles, but her spirit is younger, lighter, more joyful than it has been in years. She still cooks Thanksgiving dinner every year, but now before she turns on the stove, she always says a prayer. Thank you for watching over us. Thank you for keeping us safe. Help me listen if you need to speak. Help me trust if you need me to act. And thank you for the miracle that saved my family. I will never forget. I will never take it for granted. Amen. Martha's story has touched thousands of people. Letters come from all over the world, people thanking her for sharing, people telling their own stories of hearing voices, of obeying instincts, of miracles. Martha reads every letter. She prays for every person who writes, because she knows now that she was not just saved for herself. She was saved to be a witness, to be a testimony, to remind people that the Virgin Mary is real, that she still appears, still speaks, still saves. And all we have to do is listen. Before we finish, I want to invite you to join our prayer community for the Virgin Mary, a space of faith and hope where people from all over the world come together to pray and share the graces they have received. If you feel in your heart the desire to be part of this chain of prayer, click below and become a member of the channel today. Come pray with us. And if you made it this far to the end of Martha's story, do one thing for me. Write in the comments, turn off the stove, the 4 words that saved 17 lives and changed a family forever. I want to see how many hearts this story truly touched. And every time I read turn off the stove in the comments, I will know that one more person believes that the miracles of the Virgin Mary still happen. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Share this video with someone who needs to renew their hope today. May the Virgin Mary continue to bless and protect you and your family. Amen.